another place. That's the idea for now. And this is version 1. And it will probably expand, hopefully. We have lots of ideas, lots of inputs, lots of feedback that we'd like to go further on with. But at the moment, we are in version 1. We ship it, and we learn from it, and then we take it further. So I'm going to talk about today what's in here now. The intention, there are 3 major use cases we have looked at, and that's the only 3 use cases that we can handle with pride, I think, today. The first one is to get leads in, people you don't already know, into your CRM system, because they visit your website and find, I would like more information, or I would like you to contact me, or I would like something. And in return, we would like to get your data and put them into our CRM system with you approving us for doing that. The other reason is it's a new way of getting consent, tracking consent, so you don't have to register, send out a confirmation email, and people say yes, okay, and it goes back. They can do it right in the process when they give you their email address and name. And that's also a big advantage of this, a big motivation of making forms. And then the last point is to initiate communication, both with the people you know and people you don't know, to start processes, CRM process within SuperOffice for CRM users, both automated processes and manual processes. So it's a good start. So that's the idea behind it. We need to talk quickly about forms versus form submissions. You've all grasped the difference between those two. Form is when you design the form and what functionality it should have. A form submission is when people fill it out and press submit. Then every time people press submit, a form submission is created. And that's the result of putting a form. People filling out forms is a form submission. Service users and complete users, that's a typo. Marketing user plans and complete user plans can create and edit forms. So marketing user plans and complete user plans are the only one who can create and use and publish forms. All users can process form submissions. That's not related to a role. Anyone in a company, a salesperson, a support person, a marketing person, a switchboard person, or whatever, can process forms. And that's taking actions on it. And processing a form, we talk about we choose the word processing form in lack of a better word. Because processing a form is only, it's doing 2 things. It's identifying a person, and it runs some actions. And if it can't identify persons, you will be prevented from running the actions. So step 1, identify the person. Step 2, do the rest. You cannot skip step 1. That's how it's built. Then we end up in the discussion. Each company and each person in each company has an opinion on this. What should we do? When should we add a person we don't already know? Should it be done automatically? And we clean up, have routines for cleaning up later if there are some Donald Ducks or Bill Gates reported in as a form submission? Or should it be controlled before we add the person to the database? There's no right or wrong answer to that. Everyone has to make what they believe. I'm leaning against, after seeing the use cases, create them and clean up afterwards, rather than let the customer wait until you have the time to verify this to add it. Also, who am I to say that your name is not Jim Scott and this is your Gmail address? Who am I to control and say, yeah, that's probably okay, so I'll add him to the database manually? I don't have much better ways of qualifying that single thing within a reasonable amount of effort. If you got a support ticket, you can get that from Donald Duck also, and it's added. So I don't see it's not a big discussion, a big point for me, even though it tends to be big points when you roll it out in an organization. So it's actually two approaches. Should I be proactive, trying to wash it out before it enters as a person in CRM, or should I do that afterwards when I start working with the response that this person gave me? And the only point, as I said, if the user expects something in return from you very fast, download this white paper on forms, and he registered, and he click submit. He is interested in having that now, not in 2 weeks when you are home from vacation and can process that form manually. So you have to think about the use case and the risk that you are exposing for losing them. You see the point? Good. There are two ways of notifying users that you should process a form. It's a manual way where you go into the form and see, oops, there are some new form submissions here, and now I need to take action. Or for those who have service and service licenses, the users can add this form submission as a ticket, and you can use all the escalation rules you already have inside service. Based on category they are put in, based on priority, you can have all the bells and whistles you have inside service to escalate that. If the form wasn't processed within 2 hours, send an email to your boss, or move it to someone else, or automatically assign it to the first available guy, or all these things. It's a normal ticket, basically. It's just linked to a form submission. So that's the difference between processing form as a SuperOffice user. When it's manually processed, you can process them from two places, either from within the form or from as a ticket in service. So let's dive into it. Before you build the form, my limited experience of building real-life forms, at least during beta testing, this was the things we came up with that you should think about before starting to make the form. It can always be changed, isn't that? But it's a good guideline. So is this form most likely to be used by known people or unknown people? That tells you something about the amount of fields you put into the forms. It's a bad idea to put in 15 fields to people you probably already know. Then it's enough they identify their email address and you have the rest of the information already. So those kind of forms might be smarter to have a limited set of fields. In forms where you probably don't know them, you must know some more. Maybe if you're a B2B customer, you need the company name. Maybe you need the country. Maybe you need these kind of things from him to make a good quality of the data you enter into SuperOffice. Forms that are typically used by people you already know are forms that are sent out as links inside mailings, or are behind a website that you need to log into. Those two cases, you probably, with the 90% accuracy, can say, I know this guy. The other ones that is on the open web pages, you have to take height that these, you don't know them. There is a way we call double opt-in. Double opt-in is a way that I show you to say, this is my email address, and I can prove it by accessing it and clicking a link. So when they submit the form, we send an email to that email address. They say, OK, and then the form is submitted. It's a good way of taking away fake email addresses, noise. And you have to weigh this. Is this a necessary thing? Because it has an effect. You have the chance of losing a customer on the way. He enters his email address, forgets it, and 4 weeks later he clicks on the link, and it's time limited, so it won't work, and he has to ask for another link, and you are in this situation. So if the value you are giving isn't extremely high, or high as you define it, you could consider, should I use this double opt-in or not? People have policies that said, I always use double opt-in. Yeah, that's fine with us. Just use it in forms also. Sorry. Then you have the choice, should I have a thank you page inside the form, or should I redirect you to another web page? It's very easy to make the thank you page, so it's harder to make the actual landing page for the form. So the thank you page on a website, because then you need to involve other people, probably. That said, the search optimization people, the ones that want high, come on high on the top on the Google search pages, would like you to use landing pages, not thank you pages. You understand the difference between redirecting to a landing page and just showing a thank you message? Yeah. So that's something you need to discuss with the people. Do you have a strategy on redirecting to thank you pages to get your search optimization results up? SEO. So should I use service as an escalation method? That's already been discussed. Should there be a response email? Or should it just be some information filled out in the thank you page? Or should you just be added and get the mail in a totally different setting otherwise? So we have the possibility, as you will see, to create a mailing, as we know it. But immediately when this form is submitted, this email will be sent automatically. That is a feature inside there, and it's typically used when you send them an email containing some links that starts off other processes by clicking them, or that contains attachments that are interesting for this people who filled out the form. It's a bit more pieces that hangs together, and that you need to be aware that if you delete the one, then they don't get the mail and those kind of situations. But it's a feature that many people uses. And always plan for a form becoming inactive. You have the obvious one that says you have a seminar on this date, and after this date, the form shouldn't be possible to fill in. Or I only have 10 of these, so when 10 people have submitted a form, it should stop. And then it has to show some text. But even that, if in 2 years a guy clicks on a link somewhere on the internet that opens these forms, it shouldn't give you a 404 error or something like that. It should give a message. And I think we have a fallback message, but it's not the best messages in the world. So plan to have a inactive page on your form. And then you have the last. So these are the things you should decide before you start making it. And when you've decided on that, you can just try, and you can change your mind later. That's no problem. So now I'm just going to browse through some forms, try to explain what the different features does, and you can shout out questions, and I will repeat them in public, okay? Here are my forms. So let's start up with a basic one. By the way, let's say close that. Viewing a form, as you see here, you see that there are 2 form submissions that are waiting to be processed. That's what this red ball means. And they are form submissions that you should, or one in your team should address. So if you have, I will explain it later. On each form, you will also see a red dot if there are waiting submissions waiting for a processing. So you can do that also. In this case, you will see a summary of the form, when it was created, when it was updated, how many people did actually view it. Let's see if you can take it down a bit to see control minus. Last submission, so on, and you have some statistics. Publish is where you get the two different ways of taking a form out there. It can be done in two ways, either as a URL that you can send as a link in an email, put behind a button on a web page, those kind of things. Or it could be a script tag that you paste into your web page to integrate the form directly into your web page. If you show it with pre-filled fields, you have the possibility to enter in your URLs some default values that you would like to have. So then you just copy this and you fill in, paste it in the very one and fill in the default values you want. You can also use template variables inside this URL. Yes. Opening new windows is like test how it would look. So if I click that, it opens and loads the view. It's look how it proves to you how it looks. And that's it. Reports will take every checkbox, every drop-down, every radio button control, including subscriptions and so, and make charts of them. So that you can say, okay, in the lifetime of this form, these amount of people would like to have SMS and these amount of people would like to have email. If I would like to take out the entire result set of this form for all form submissions with all fields and all data, you go here and select task and export to Excel. Then these will be created a spreadsheet where you can have all the data in different columns, and you can make charts or pivotal or do whatever you like with that kind of result. So it's a poor man's analytics of form results. And form submissions is, of course, things that all the people that have been submitted. You have three or filter possibilities here. Awaiting confirmation, it's the status you get if you have sent out a double opt-in message and this user haven't clicked I accept yet. So it's waiting for users to click a link in their email. Submitted means it's been entered by the customer, he's done, now it's your time to do something. Processed means that it has been processed and completed. Other, I think, is used for, I don't have good examples on that. Do you have the answers, Stian? Yeah. An error happened was the answer. And it has another one. So you can filter this list better and say, okay, I'm only, if you have a lot of form submissions, you of course want to see only submitted ones so you can work with those. And that's the way you handle that. Okay, let's go through a form step by step. So in a form, you will always have a preview of what you actually looks like at the moment over here. And then you have the definition of the topic you are editing here. And then you have the different properties of a form as almost like a wizard, but like tabs down there. You don't need to have something on all, but you need to have something. We recommend that you check them. Properties, the most important thing to address here is, of course, the language. The language means that a form will get error message, lead text, stuff that you don't type in yourself in a specific language. So there are no multi-language support for a form. Then you need to copy it 4 times and have 4 different forms if you want to have 4 languages. The Swedish thank you page might redirect you to another place than the Norwegian one, and so on. So to not make it complicated, we made it easy to copy a form. Then you can change the language and do that language in the form. The manage by is a difficult one. It says here, who should get the red dot is what this answers. So if I'm a member of sales or marketing, I'm a member of marketing and this is it, I will not get a red dot when I open and view that form. Only the sales team will do that. Yes?
Set that one default?
No, you can't set that default. At the moment. You set it here in the first place. Then you have the until and max, which is this form should not be possible to submit after this date, and it should not be possible for more than 150 people to make submissions. That's the use case where you have 150 seats available on Expandable, and even you cannot accommodate more people. So that's this kind of use case for that. And then if the landing page or the page you are monitoring uses Google Analytics, you can add a Google Analytics tag and track. These are the traffic on my web page. They came from this specific form. That's one way of using it. So it's exactly the same as we do on mailings today. We use it the same way. Okay, let's take away this. I'm not sure I'm going to do it. Fields are where you just define your fields. There are 3 sets of fields. You can change them, drag and drop them, the order of them, but they are not fields in different columns. They are underneath each other. That's how it is. You can go on to properties, and each field has a different set of properties, or might have a different set of properties. Let's first say that when you add fields, you have 3 different types of fields. One are fields that are SuperOffice fields, so you don't need to have a mapping that says this fields point to a company name and this field comes to this. When you add a contact email field here, we know that this is an email of a person. We don't need to specify more than that, and you shouldn't. So when the form is processed, we check and know what fields to update. So these are the SuperOffice fields available at the moment, and we will add more on time. The most wanted ones are, there are several. In-person interests is one example that people would like to have and offer people to fill out. User-defined fields, all these kind of things that people would like to be added to this list. And it will come. This is the list for at the moment. If you need more fields, then you need to go into what we call form elements, which are custom fields that you add in. And then you have to map them later on when you process them through a script to what SuperOffice value they would like to have. And by saying this is a text field, a text area, which is a multi-line field, radio buttons, checkbox, drop-down, hidden, date, and upload file. Upload file is more like send me a screenshot of your problem or attach your contract to this when you submit it. So it's a way of a person to fill in a form and add an attachment to it. All of these have a bit different properties of these field types. We'll try to see it. The view elements are just what's shown. They are not going to be possible to edit for the user. It's like a header and a picture and these kind of elements that you add into it. So let's have a look at some of these fields that places. All fields have at least two specific properties across all of them. It's often the name, how it should be displayed in the form. It's the placeholder if you would like to have a text that says in gray inside the field that says enter your personal email here or something like that. It's an identifier, and the identifier is to simplify names. So if your field name is state your business, then the name here could be, the identifier could be business. And then you can refer to that in scripts and all other kinds of default values and stuff later on. And this is fixed. Even if someone managed to say email address here, you don't need to change all your existing scripts or all your existing links, because this identifier will be constant. It's much like a prog ID in UDEF, if you are related to them. Then some fields have some special properties. Let's have a look at them. Not the name, the company are one example. Here it says, if you fill in a text, a company name, that is exactly match of a company name that you have in your database, you should add that person to this company. This is a matching field. If you don't have that checkbox, you will have 2 of that companies inside your database if you process it automatically. So that's, at the moment, the way we can identify is this company already in your database or not. And if he writes it, spells it wrong, then it becomes 2 companies, and you have to merge them through the standard features inside SuperOffice when you're done. Another field that you have that could be discussed is consent field. This points to a purpose in your definition. So when you have in your admin client, you probably all know this. I got a question, that was why I show this now quickly. By the way, hidden fields are fields that you add, but is never shown in the UI of the form. Hidden fields have no value if you don't assign values to them. So if it's not submitted with hidden field or field that is hidden XXX equals this value, it will not bring any value to the form itself. It's just a way of taking in parameters to a form submission that can be picked up on the other side. So that's the idea behind hidden fields, if you wonder what hidden means. You could, for example, you set a default value on the hidden field that says the form name, or form type, or the web page it was published on, so that you, without Google Analytics, can see where did this page would it be submitted from. So you can use creative stuff like that. Let's say privacy, you have the possibility here for sales and service, e-marketing, and location. That's what I have defined in my solution. Here you have a privacy statement and a link to your privacy statement and a small external description of what will happen when you press that little blue button. Remember now, if you add an English form, you have to make sure that this text, this purpose is translated into English. Otherwise, it will use default text that you have. Okay? So those are connected to the language part also. When it comes to consent, you then select the purpose that you would like to collect consent for. And you also say, should I show a link to the privacy statement below so that people can go off to your web page and read your privacy statement? It's sometimes people would like to have it and sometimes they wouldn't like to have it. It's really an option given to you. This is only, sign me up is the OK button or submit button. The submit button has very little feature. It's the name of it, how it should where it should be placed in the form. It's wide means take the whole form width and make a button out of that. Then you have font color and background color. That's it. When it comes to the field we call, let's see, the field that we call subscriptions. Add. You have a list of all subscriptions you have available in your admin client, translated correctly and so on. And this is where you pick, I want to offer in this form, it's only these two subscriptions I am interested in collecting. Not selecting one will not remove existing ones in the database. So if I already have a subscription, active subscription on me called promotions, and I go into this form and I do not click promotion, it's not the same way as I no longer want this kind of feedback. This feature is meant to add to what you already have. So it will not take back. It has been a discussion, but that's the way we landed on, and that's the functional experience you should see. Let's see if there are other, yeah.
When adding the subscription, will it add automatically the e-marketing consent in the database?
Yes, Jan asked if a user presses this and you do not have a consent for e-marketing already, it will set that consent for e-marketing automatically with source from web forms and type legal base to consent. Because if you click this, it means I would like you to send me information about that. And that's implicitly, you say also it's okay to send me emails. So that's how we see that. And if you take away if you don't fill out anything, we will not remove existing consents. It will be how it is today. Yes?
You have linked mail to the source you're using, web forms.
Mm?
If you have the consent or the consent together on
Subscription.
the consent.
Okay, the consent?
The consent was to store.
Mm?
Will there be an email automatically?
You can decide. We have said that it's double up. It's too much, really. You can say if on your in your list, yes, yes, it will. But as a general rule, it's bothering people with too much email. It can really piss people off. I want email. I accept your terms, and then you get here and say, oh, I see you have accepted my terms. Click here to accept again, or whatever. So it's not the best user experience, I think, but it will obey that rule you have defined in the list sets. Other fields worth mentioning when it comes to SuperOffice fields. Some of these fields have the possibility, like I think the title, and to say replace. Replace existing values in your CRM system. Some of them are obviously not possible to replace, but some of them are possible to replace. So if I here it states my title to be chief tester, and it's in my database says tester, and when this is checked, it will be updated to chief tester when processed automatically. So that's the idea. What if you leave it empty? It will not blank the other one. So this is also on some, you find it on some fields, but not the fields that we feel risky. Email address, for example. This is not the way you change your email address. It will not be overwriting existing. That could lead to dramatic security consequences.
When you add in new fields, does the placeholder get filled in automatically, or only if you're using script do you have to give it one manually?
The placeholder you have to fill in manually when you add the field automatically. But it goes to what you call the text fields, actually. So here you have contact title, and then please enter your title in here is what you do then. And in the language that the form is, of course, so it looks good in all ways. Other fields worth while, it's just mostly formatting. So if I add fields, form elements as we call them, and say these are radar buttons, you add A plus B. These are the radar buttons that you add. And you can choose, should these be done in one line, or like you see in the preview here, or should they be shown vertically, so below each other. That's the option if you have very long texts. If you have short text, then maybe you should have it beside each other, so to not get the form too high. The text block is a special text block, and sometimes it gets, let's see, text block on small screens. It could be quite messy. So what we have done there is to say, okay, open it in one big window so that you can complete and format and paste and do what you would like there, and also cancel. Yes. Images are quite easy. You drag and drop them in, or you resize them, and you have them as you would like to have them. Other fields that needs a special care and thought about, Sverre og Stian, that are a bit tricky. I mentioned the hidden fields as we discussed it. And again, this hidden field, form elements, hidden, add. You can post the default value here, or you can add it programmatically. Yes? No, that's not. And that's what I mean. If you need to see, if you really need that, find another project. There are hundreds of them where you can really go into HTML and code stuff. That's not our audience.
Some support for using these clients.
Could be that next version 2 also would be more adaptive to mobile phone screens. No, that's correct. Then it's the style thing. And the style thing, we have tried to make it so flexible that you could get quite long, far, but not more. Some people hate it, some people love it. You can say, should it be square or rounded corners on everything? You can say, should the field names, where should the field names be placed? Here or above? You can say, what should the border of a field be here, the one around the white thing here? What should a form border be? That's the border between the background page and the form itself. What should a form background be? It could be a color, or it could be, like we have my forms, an image. Some people think that's very cool to have an image as a form background. Some people think it's just noise. You decide. You can do that with a page. You choose your basic font and your base font size. The fonts are picked by us. And we had a huge discussion, should we use Google fonts or should we use Microsoft fonts, or the names? And we fell down that people recognize these kind of fonts that they are used to finding in Word and PowerPoint and all these kind of things, and not that familiar with the strange name of the Google fonts. So we landed on this. And this is the set of fonts we have at the moment. If you have input to fonts that is shipped with Windows that we should add, make a wish, and it's most likely possible to come. Then you also say what is the base font size of this, and it says 14. And that means that if you do everything and do not specify font size anywhere else in the solution, you can change all fonts in this field. If you override it in a text field and say, no, not here, here I want that size of the font, then it will keep that font size. So just so you know it. Changing here will not affect pages that you have specified font type and font size in the rest of the system. This form width and form height is used when you are, if it's blank, it will adapt to the space it has available within its iframe. And if this is going to be a form placed inside a script tag in an existing web page, you should leave them blank, because then it will fill and stretch into that available size on that iframe. So if you resize that web page, the iframe probably will increase, and the form will then also increase. It gives you a much more built-in feel of a form pushed out on a website. If you want to be as specific as an URL that opens a separate page, you can, with luck, specify the width, because then you know how it will look exactly every time people open up that form. You got the difference? Good. Double opt-in. Let's see if we have a double opt-in. We had the one yesterday, so we can say a bit more. Close, recent, edit. Oh. Double opt-in, you have a message. That is what's going to be displayed when people submit. Then this message is shown. And this is the content of the email that will be sent to that person. Please remember this address you type in here, if you are an online customer, needs to be a valid address, otherwise it will be, by most email services, denied. So Gmail, for example, you can type in whatever you will here, and Gmail will accept it. Office 365 will not accept if you don't have an SPF record for your domain here. So this either has to be sudo CRM online, or whether that actual URL that mailings use through Mailgun, or you have to add an SPF record in your DNS to make sure it's possible to send mails that looks like it comes from this email address. So that's how we do it. This is a double opt-in. No, this is the message. Should I redirect you to an external website, or should I show this message? That's basically the discussion with search engine optimization you need to take. And then you have the page for inactive forms, and you should always test these kind of things. So in my example here, I have a form that is an invitation to a margarita tasting event or something. And if you try to open that, you need to test that open a new window. You need to test what will it look like when it's not available anymore. So please plan for having inactive pages. How do you connect this to mailing? Someone asks. And the answer is you do it two ways. Either you distribute the form from a mailing. Here I have a mailing that we received 800 of all of us in our inbox when GDPR, please reconfirm your consent type of email, which basically wasn't legal in the first place, I think, but never mind. This is a normal mailing that you send into a sent to a set of users in SuperOffice as normal. This is what happened. This is how it looks when it goes, and you see that the URL has here been replaced with template variables. So you see here that because I added %customer.name % in there, it was replaced when it was sent out, and then the form can get back to you pre-filled if you would like that. So then you have a possibility for people to don't bother people you already know to say, fill in this again. It's a waste of time. And if he forwarded this and someone else clicked on it, okay, then they can act like they are this guy, or most likely they will change their name and email and submit it anyway. So this is how it is. Yes? Yes? That has to be done with a user-defined field and a script that does this for you. So there are no, at the moment, we are discussing how to implement macros into this and say when the form is submitted, look at this field and do this through a macro interface. But at the moment, you have to use scripts. But that's something that's in our pipeline, definitely. Yes, that was how you push it out. The only trick you need to know is that in this mailing, you cannot use tracked links, because a tracked link will be created when it will contain the template variables and not the translated one, because the tracked links is saved before you actually replace the template variables and send it out. So you need to, let's see here, if we edit this, body, a bit small screen I can see here, but this is a normal URL, not a track link. Make sure that you don't make that mistake. And here you can see that you have percentage company name and you have the URL that you replace when you send out. So that's the trick to do that. The other thing I would like to discuss is, or show, or explain. Let's see, yeah, maybe we should save and close, and close. It's what we call a form response in mailings. And to define an email that should be sent out as a response to a form submission, you go here. So a new form response, let's see, do we have a form response here? Yes, we have it there. And the only thing that, edit. The only thing that differs a response, form response email from a normal mailing is the missing 2 steps. Because you are not picking recipients here, and you are not scheduling send out here, because this will happen one by one for each form submission. And the response email will send and merge back to the person who postponed or replied to the email. So if it's not being processed, remember step 1 in processing was identify person. Step 2 is do actions. One of the actions is to send a response email. And that will not be sent before it's processed. If you process automatically, then it's no problem. Then it will go immediately. If it's not, then you need to be aware of that when you have that. So urgent feedback that people expect, don't use this technique with manual then. And of course, this email can contain track links, action buttons, do start other processes. So one process is then to send an email that opens a form, you fill it out, you do something, submit it, data gets processed, you get an email back, start another track, go to another form maybe, what do I know, or do other actions within SuperOffice. So this is a part of a workflow that you initiate.
Is it possible to start a script instead of sending it?
Yes, let's see here. So save, and we go back to forms, and the last thing here, maybe we should go in the other one, the ones that we had, recent, edit. These are the actions we can do today. You can create a ticket, and when you create a ticket, it's a normal ticket just pointing to this form. And by that, you have the whole environment of service in your hands that you can do with escalation rules, scripting, all these kind of things. You specify the title, the request category, and the priority, and by that you have rules in tickets in service that escalates them for you. You decide here on each form what should happen when people submit. Should it automatically be processed always? Should it be manually if the sender is unknown, and if automatic if the sender is known? And note this, if you have a duplicate email address on two persons with the same email address in SuperOffice, which is a bad thing in the first place, then it will treat it as a unknown, because then you need to pick who of these persons are this. Okay? You can add them to static selections, of course. You can add them as project members. You can add a set of interests to that person. You can send an email response, and the email response is then, of course, you choose from the mailings of this type that you have created in this other screen that I showed you. Or you can execute a script. So in my demo yesterday, I created a sale because someone has signed up for this car, a optional sale. And this was done, let's see here. The input that a script gets is the person ID and the form submission ID. That's the two values that are guaranteed there when you execute the script. So when this script here is executed, it will bring along the form ID, the submission ID, and the person ID. And that's what you can build on later. And in this example, oh, I didn't need to go there, but let's go here anyway. System design, CRM script, Tesla reservation. This is the script that we wrote to create that sale. 40 lines with half of it comments. The most of this logic is who should be the owner of the sale, what should be this probability, what should be the state, all these things that you defined here. And also in this case, we hard-coded the amount of the sale amount because we knew that this car costs this, and that's what we estimate to be sold. So that is how you can process a form submission after it has been processed by the user. Kick off other things.
The only way to see a form submission is to go into marketing with no other warnings that there is form submissions to be handled.
And now there are, of course, if you use tickets, you will get them escalated and in your queue and your things. And there are no notifications at the moment. We struggled a lot with that discussion. Should we notify people, everyone in the team, one person? What if he's away? Should we have presence or available, like the chat discussion? In chat, we ended up with taking everyone belonging to one team that was present. we feel it's a bit longer from being present and ready for form submissions than it is from taking on chat discussions. So at the moment, the only way you can see that I have a form submission waiting for a member of my team or anyone with us is to go into this one. That's across all forms. So this not only for one form, but it's across. If I have 10 forms out there and I have 5 submissions from each of them, it's 50 lines in this list. And then you one by one process them. And processing them says, first of all, you need to add this person to the database. We don't have this email address, and SuperOffice tries to figure out maybe this is this one. It's not the same email address, but it's, and then we hook it up to this person. Or you can create another person, change contact, add a new company and contact directly. And it picks up the data, and you can do it right away if you feel that. Yes, Jan.
What will happen to the email address if you choose an author there who has a toolbar?
I think that if this is a form field, this will be added as a secondary email address on that person. Is that correct, Stian? Yeah. So we will take care of, and if you have a phone number here, it will also automatically be added as a phone number if you don't have the phone number of that person in the database. So it will insert empty fields. It will not, you have to specify, it should replace, and it will not, empty values will not override existing fields.
If you have the GDPR personal email set up to automatically go out, if you add with this function new contacts into the database, will they get the personal GDPR email?
Yes, let's see. I need to go in here and see on settings and maintenance. We are 1 minute left, so I'll just show you that. In our lists, you have what we call, what is it the list called, Jan? Privacy source. If I have said on web form, you should automatically send a confirmation email. That will be done. But as I said, if I recommend you to collect that consent there and then. So it's not the best use case I can see. So I guess all you need to do is to say process when you have connected it to the right person. This is the same user interface if you are in service or in the form submission. And that's basically it. Let's go. Yes, questions? Can you see people using this short startup for easy use cases? No longer having to create form on their website, converting that to an email, sending it to service, trying to do something with it manually and stuff, and starting off. It will now go just automatically. And I think that's a huge step forward in both gathering leads and gathering consent and starting to communication with your customers. And that's what this is, actually. No one?
Is it, you know, the attachments, when I was playing around, I noticed that the attachments don't go into activities, they just sit within this form submission.
Yes.
Maybe in the future they might go in as a
It's a bit, we don't know, but make your argument in an email to bug@superoffice.com and we will try to discuss it. It will definitely come as attachment in a ticket if you do it, but I'm not sure if it should be attached as a separate document. In any case, it must be linked to the form submissions of some kind. Otherwise, you wouldn't know where it came from. So we'll see. Okay, that's it for forms.
Hello. Locally.
Hello.